Hello, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Jason. Good to be here. It's been a while.
Yeah, and oops, sorry about that. Yeah, and rescheduling and headaches and necks and
I had a lower back with you, and you had a headache last week. I had a headache earlier today, but I'm feeling good now. So
yeah,
we're here.
it's all working out.
So what's been new, Jason?
Yeah, interesting session, QHHT sessions, and in case of anyone here doesn't know what QHHT is, I kind of consider like a spiritual hypnosis and past lifetimes, sometimes communicating with spirit guides, higher self, galactics, pretty much anything and everything. So interestingly, they often reflect what's going on, not only with the person, but information that we need to know that's important for everyone. And it's always just kind of surprising to me because it's not like things I ask for. It just kind of comes, and it's very humbling when it does come through. Just to know that essentially they not only trust that particular person, the client, but trust me with information, and I'm not going to.
It's very cool. I've always, maybe one of these days I'll take a QHHT class, but it's always been very interesting to me, and all the information that comes through, like Dolores Cannon's books, like the Convoluted Universe stuff. It's very interesting stuff. So I'm sure you have an amazing insight of kind of all of the collective craziness that's going on.
Yeah, it's funny just because I've always been the type that really needs concrete evidence, or I have to experience things firsthand to really believe it. And even when I first started, I read a lot of Dolores's books before I even knew that you could learn the technique. I didn't even know that. I couldn't get enough of everything, and then I found out you could take the classes, and I took the classes, and then I started, and it wasn't actually until the first person that I tried the hypnosis with that I fully believe it was possible. Even though I saw it happen and everything else, it was life-changing, really. And over the years, it's a lot of the stuff that came through Dolores's books. It's one way or another has come through sessions with me. So I almost feel like reading her books was actually more educational and prepared me better for doing the work.
And I love the messages from like the higher self. I hear a little bit of a feedback. I don't know if it's on your end, Jason. But then also like the miraculous healings that take place with the higher self too. It's all really interesting.
Yeah, that's always surprising and incredible. And I mean, they won't always do it. There's certain conditions that have to come into play. It could be.
I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing with my Reiki healing. I mean, if we came down here to experience something and it's on our life path,
right?
It's something that you're meant to experience. So while it might be helpful for some of the symptoms, not necessarily curing it, but we're ready to let go of it too. Everybody's in a different place.
Yeah, some people are too connected with being sick or being in pain, and so they won't do it. Or other times sometimes it is past life related, and I still haven't really. The opportunity has never presented itself for me to kind of ask the question, why is it that our bodies just happen to latch on to past ailments? I mean, a lot of times it does have to do with if it's a trauma related to certain experience in a past life and we're dealing with it now in this life, our energetic bodies remember. But there's other times it's just a matter of saying, well, she's not in that lifetime, can she just let that go? And sometimes they say yes, and it's so I still don't have a understanding of why does that happen. It can't be a joke.
Right.
Especially when it's something painful or life-threatening. But the healings can be very, very just incredible. Spines being readjusted, bones popping. I've seen light once or twice, because they always heal with light. So it wasn't like spotlight, but just
like an orb of light,
like a glow that emanates from the body in certain places. And
very interesting.
I don't always know what they're doing. They've once in a while, I usually ask them to explain what they're doing, but sometimes it's things that we don't even have a concept of. Like there's this one lady that I met with where they said that her soul wasn't completely connected and integrated with her physical body, and they had to fix it. And I said, okay, well, thank you. Don't know how that happens.
Well, if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, sign me up.
Definitely. All right. So I have, we're doing readings. So if entertainment purposes only. So if you have questions that you'd like us to explore, I'm not well versed in the political, so if you want to go that route, Kevin's your man. Otherwise, we can focus on more just kind of what's going on now energetically. And
I think that's good, Jason. Let's do something that we're both comfortable with. And like I said, from your perspective of what you do, I'm sure you're getting a lot of interesting information right now.
Yeah, it is. It's and it reflects everything that everyone's kind of talking about in a lot of ways with the energy shifts and just effects on the physical body and it being dense and heavy and the headaches and everything else. I don't know if other people are experiencing that. I'm not one to get headaches that often, so
the last 2 weeks have been super heavy. I've been having more headaches, just feeling very fatigued. I don't remember my dreams too often, but even a couple dark dreams and stuff like that, it's starting to kind of dissipate for me anyway. But I think with all the solar flare activity and this last full moon was pretty brutal for a lot of us empaths.
I don't know that much, that I know about the solar flares. I know that from the spiritual sense.
What do they say about all the solar flares?
What I have learned, and I think that there's different interpretations, but the sun is like a major source of our information, where we get downloads, where we get light codes and information. So the solar flares are related to bursts of information that are being sent out. And so, the intensity and the frequency of them as of late have to do with just we are all receiving a lot of information and a lot of downloads, which also means we should be out in the sun more. It's really important. It's nothing that we actually have to do. It's a matter of we just go outside and get sunshine, which I think sometimes we can forget to do that.
It's hard right now too, depending on where you live. I mean, I'm in Ohio, and it's pretty cold. But do you also feel like with all of the solar flares, I do feel like it's connected to this shift, this ascension that we're going through, where it's kind of energetically we're kind of being upgraded right now. So it's very hard because we're all kind of adjusting. The physical body kind of wants to get lighter. But with all of this information, all this intense energy, it's physically we're struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and yes, and the interesting thing is a lot of higher selves or the spirit teams or the galactics that are aware of this and communicating, just with us are saying it's kind of we just have to remember it's for the better, and
and embrace it, not resist it.
To embrace it, and it's also giving us a little leeway. You know, if you're feeling tired all the time, or you need, you know, it's there's just a lot going on. But you know, there is the reminder we can, to some degree, you know, ask for things to slow down, ask for kind of a break. And sometimes, I know, at least through some of my sessions, they kind of forget that we're in this physical body that's, in comparison to our soul, is very just
very heavy.
We can only handle so much. So it is possible, if you are physically, or, you know, mentally and emotionally and spiritually feeling overwhelmed, to kind of ask for some relief. So that's always an option, but then sometimes it's like, in one way or another, it's kind of like we just kind of have to suck it up. They don't put it that way, but it's kind of the feeling like it's just part of what's going on right now. And a lot of it's go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a very exciting time if you think of all of this collective growth that we're going through, and all of these wonderful things kind of coming into our future. It's just not the easiest time while we're kind of enduring and we're dealing with all of the heavy stuff, so that we can learn that lesson and evolve and grow from it. So it's not easy. And that's why I've been telling people, especially for like this year, I was getting a strong message from my guides. I mean, obviously I focus a little bit more on the political and global event stuff kind of going on, but to keep the faith, make sure that we're doing things to stay grounded. We're going to need to stay grounded, because there's going to be a lot of upset. I mean, even today, some of the news coming out was a little upsetting for, I'm sure, a lot of people watching. But yeah, we just have to keep the faith. Don't allow all of this hard stuff to defeat us. You know, use it as motivation to continue fighting and pushing through it.
I mean, yeah, I definitely, I've had, you know, people that are, or sessions with people who are, you know, very overwhelmed with the state of everything that's going on, and they just and they consist, like higher selves. When I say they, I mean higher self, spirit teams, whoever, just remembering that a lot of what's going on is in response to, like, the light becoming stronger, its harmony, its balance. The stronger the light gets, the stronger the dark gets. So if anything, the more crazy it seems, actually, the better that, you know, the light has won, according to them. So it's
all about finding that right balance. And I just heard equilibrium, kind of, between the light and the dark.
And there's this element that keeps coming up too, where, you know, in the past we would cross paths with someone that we, you know, had a friendship with 20 years ago, or you meet your arch enemy that you had never seen for 20 years. And a lot of us kind of tend to, oh, this is a sign and I need to do something about this. Which, according to higher selves and spirit, that was the case in the past, but now we're in a time where it's not necessarily something where we're supposed to react or do something about it. Like, if you come across someone that you really don't want contact with, it's meant to be a mirror for ourselves, in terms of, this is how far I've come from that. And it's not meant to be, oh, I guess I need to go back and rehash these old feelings and this old stress and everything else. And that's absolutely not.
It's like a little bit of a test the universe is putting out there. How well are you going to react to this now? How much growth has happened, right?
Yeah. And it's funny how it comes through. I had a session, this was a couple of months ago, and it was this lady where she had done all this work and releasing all this fear, releasing all this anger, getting, doing work with traumas in order to release that, getting on a spiritual path. And she decided she was going to, the physical balance needed to be part of it too. And she signed up for a gym. She was all gung-ho. And the first day she was like walking by to enter the gym, and she saw like this old friend, well, ex-friend that she had on a treadmill. And she just, it threw her for a loop, because she just was like, what do I do about this? It's like, I'm a different person now. I don't want this to, I don't want it to be weird, but is Spirit telling me I shouldn't be going to the gym, or how do I do this? And essentially this is just a reminder, a mirror, a reflection of, this is how far I've come, and not to stop because of that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, it's an interesting way to think of synchronicities and things. It's not always about taking action, but just reflecting on where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything? We're gonna hopefully have time to do some personal questions. Jason's getting some of them started. But is there anything that's really interesting that's coming through the quantum healing right now, especially like in regards to us shifting and ascending, or anything that really stands out to you? I find it really fascinating. So.
Yeah. One of the biggest things, and I talked about this for anyone who saw Terry's show, my show with Terry, is just talking about the veil. The veil that we've all agreed to take on when we come into the earth plane, earth existence, that essentially gives, I call it spiritual amnesia, like that we are connected with the rest of the universe, that we aren't by ourselves, that we are one consciousness, we are love, we are all source, and we're all, we forget all that. And
especially right now with things being so divided right now, right?
Yeah, which it's, we're not supposed to be perfect, and they always reaffirm that, like, part of being human is not being perfect and not remembering anything and getting sucked in. So seeing ourselves as separate, but we are in a time and we are in a place where I never say this gauntlet's being thrown. I don't know why that's coming through, but that it's time to remember, and time to really embrace that, and
let go of the judgment, and and have like that empathy to be able to see both sides of the situation.
It's also that we've made things too complex and too complicated, that even spiritually speaking, in terms of everything that's going on, that there's been a lot of language, and they've described it as kind of I had one lady, it came through herself, called it voodoo hoodoo, which I don't know why that was one thing, but it's a lot easier to get to where we're going than a lot of us think it is. Like, we don't have to jump through certain hoops and hurdles. And so when it comes to the veil, which came through a session where I communicated with the woman who she, I guess her previous lifetime would be the way to put it. When we start getting into galactic stuff, they really don't see it as lifetimes, but her previous existence was as a being that was carefree. They traveled around the universe. Everything was, they were curious about everything, and it was just like a big kind of party on a ship. But she said that part of her purpose and part of these beings' purpose was to create the energetic veil for humankind, which was surprising to me, because veil, I think, is something we just kind of throw around, or we really don't have a sense of what it is. And to know that it was actually something created and a task that was completed and ongoing, for us to forget, it was pretty incredible. And part of her, when she incarnated into this lifetime, she is still one of those beings, and a lot of them are being asked to come here, because it's time for us to take off the veils. And this is more metaphorical, but they're the ones who created them, and they're being tasked to come here to help us to do that. So raising vibrations, and it's that carefree, laughter, joyous energy that is ultimately the highest vibration that we can have to to lift that veil.
Yeah. When you can see too with the kids coming in nowadays, how much more connected that they are. Like it's very crazy, and it is part of this shift where we're kind of raising the vibrations and heading to a more 5D reality, more heart-centered, more compassionate. It's kind of like Dolores would say, what's her book, Three Ways to Volunteers, kind of, and it's all kind of going with raising the vibration of the planet and of us collectively.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how everything is shifting to so much more galactic awareness, and our our connectedness, that we are intergalactic beings, and we are made up of actually many different types of beings. So kind of like the handpicked selected parts. So that's why we often are in conflict with ourselves, because some of these beings or the memories that we hold aren't always harmonious. So that's been kind of told to me too. But a lot of those who are here and those who are incarnating, particularly, you know, the younger generations and teenagers now, are not, they are of a different kind. And even like what we have classified, or what society is classified as, you know, behavioral disorders, ADHD, or, you know, attention deficit, that's actually, it's been told to me several times, that's kind of the new vibration. It's processing at high rates, things don't need to be repeated, getting bored very easily, because to them we're like a bunch of sloths moving around. Like, it's like, okay, I get it, and what's next? You know, that's yet it's, they're seen as abnormal, but it's really, we just need to catch up. And so it's, there is, and I think people are aware of it. Like that, like you said, the kids in these generations are more about love, and there is this overwhelming need for guidance. A lot of them have that knowledge within, and we all do when we first get here. But then as time progresses and we are, you know, getting farther and farther away from the memories of who we are really, we can lose touch with that. And then we don't have any types of frameworks in place on the earth right now that can support that. So that's that's another aspect. It's kind of like we're disconnected a little bit in terms of how we need to be evolving as a society and human beings.
We're starting to get there, though, I think. Because with all of this ascension, or raising the vibrations, I can't tell you how many clients I have talk about, you know, their intuitive gifts really starting to get developed. And it's all, you know, doing this kind of work, it's all energy work. You know, we have to raise our vibrational energy to be more of a compatible match with the spirits. If we're feeling, you know, we're sitting in anger or fear, or, you know, this heaviness that's really grounded, we're not as compatible to receive those messages from guides that are very light, very quick, you know. So if we work on raising our vibrational energy, and energetically, I feel like we're getting to that point, we're much more compatible to receive those messages.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, just the fact that for example, in the sessions that I do and others do, and you know, even psychics and everyone who is intuitive and do readings, for example, like the galactics are becoming more, making themselves known, making themselves present, galactic guides, and there is a way in which they're becoming a little bit more involved than I don't know how to really call, you know, our spirit teams in comparison to galactic team. I mean, essentially it's the same, but they want us to remember, and they want us to recognize that we are, you know, we have galactic heritage and everything else, and it's not just about the earth plane and the earth experience. But even being given that type of information is showing how much everyone is more open to it. But that also has to do with raising vibrations.
Well, it's interesting that you say that though too, because even like all the UFO sightings and everything are just becoming so much more relevant than what they were in the past, and maybe it's because energetically we're raising so we can actually start to see it. That's a good point. I really like that.
That's exactly what I've been told. It's like they've always been there. It's just that we haven't been able to see them because we've been so much lower in vibration frequency. So the increase isn't there. There's more coming. They've always been there. We just couldn't see them. And I've even been told, like, crop circles, there are some that appear overnight, but they've been there the entire time. It's just we haven't been able to see them. So
oh wow,
it's kind of a new take on.
I'm getting goosebumps with this too.
I know. It's really pushes, just the information pushes you to think outside the box, and that it's not all about being overwhelmed, or a lot of this has always been there and always will be. It's just we haven't been in a place to really even be ready to work with that information or work with the knowledge of ETs or anything like that. So
very cool.
Yeah. And then the other aspect of the veil, it was the taskmasters who sent this being to the planet, along with other beings who created the veils, are the seraphim, which I knew of, but I didn't, I never really, it wasn't a question of whether I believed in them or not, but it was interesting that they were the ones who are kind of behind this need for our awakening too.
What group are you talking about? I don't think I've heard of that.
Seraphim are they're typically associated. I guess one way to portray them is 6 wings. They're the highest of the high angels. They have beautiful voices. They're kind of closest to source. I've learned since that it's part of the divisions of the original source, and it gets kind of complicated, but they're more than angels. They're more celestial forces. I really don't know how to explain them, but
that's all right.
Yeah.
So they're in like a higher dimension than what you would think of like angels or archangels. It's like almost that dimension of God or source, whatever you want to call it.
Right. But they're the being that I was communicating with didn't like them. She called them mean. They were too serious. And I asked to communicate with them, and they're just at that level, which I've come across before, where they're just so disconnected. I mean, they're connected with the human experience, but they're disconnected in that there isn't any, I guess, humor. It's just this is what needs to be done. This is how it is. It's not wishy-washy or flowery language.
Straightforward, right?
Yeah, you need to go to the earth to take care of this. Yeah. So we have questions.
And if anybody has any questions, I mean, I'm open to doing any personal or even anything more like about kind of what we're going through collectively right now. Both of us, I think, are open to that as well.
I can't believe that the conversation is about the veil. I've been so deeply emotionally questioning why, when, how come this veil feels so close yet so far away. I feel I almost know it. Yeah. It's no coincidence that you've been thinking about the veil, because that's kind of our next steps.
Well, when you say the veil, is that kind of referring to this new Earth concept that Dolores talked about?
I mean, when they came up, I asked that because I said, because she said we create the veils for humankind, and they said, well, are you referring to what we consider to be the veil in terms of, seeing spirit and seeing what's behind, spirituality and connectedness and universality and all that. And she said yes. So I mean, she described it like it's kind of something you put over our heads, but I think it's energetic, and I think it was just more in the sense of it confirmed that we do come here and forget, and that's historically how it's been. But it is a time where we need to be not wearing it anymore. It's more just the knowingness and being open to it, and knowing that there is something that is limiting our perceptions. And in a way, she said, it's so easy for you all to take off these veils. It's just that you don't know. It's really simple. And she said, you just need to laugh more.
Yeah.
And she said, you don't even know how simple it is to take it off.
Well, I think also too, I mean, I get how it can be a bit challenging with everything going on right now too, but it's all about that energy or perspective that you're sitting in. Not to say that there's not horrors going on in the world and that we shouldn't all be outraged by some of the things, but it's also not allowing it to personally affect you, to lower your vibrational energy. Bring in that awareness of what's going on, or use the things kind of going on as that motivating force to, fight for good. But I mean, with all of the Earth events, all of the wars kind of going on, it's scary if you allow it to be,
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's always a topic that I don't want to say dance around, but there is the human element, and there is the compassion and justice and all those, which I feel are kind of like universal, even galactic concepts of right. Well, there's no right and wrong, but along those lines of taking advantage or causing harm to someone else. But there are elements to what we are experiencing now is temporary, and sometimes it's necessary for the progression of our spiritual development, and it's difficult. It's difficult to talk about.
That's a really good point, though, that it's stuff that was already agreed upon for a lot of people that are kind of going through that, or the loss of life, but it is necessary to facilitate the shift that we're going through.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that often causes people to feel uncomfortable is saying that someone chose to pass away in a war brutally, but from the spirit side, we do choose what we experience, and if that is the case, then it is actually for a better purpose, and for us, for example, to move forward and confront darkness, or COVID was a way for us to remember what's important, and what all this other stuff and distractions isn't really what matters. It's about connecting and the humanity and compassion and caring of who we are that is important. So I guess it's just a matter of looking at the bigger picture, but that's not always easy when we're immersed in it, or it's a loved one or someone else we're close to that is a target of something that's unjust. So
absolutely. And I think it's so interesting too that you said COVID, because I felt like that was so important to this shift, and even for myself and my own spiritual awakening. It's like COVID had to happen to make the world stop, for everybody to kind of stop everything that they're doing, stop all the distractions that are going on, or that we sometimes put in there, and actually start dealing and working on our own inner healing, and really evaluating what's resonating with us now, or what's no longer working for us, and then making those positive changes to ultimately, bring in that our own happiness or excitement or passion. I think that all to do with this kind of shift right now too.
It is, and I've gotten messages that a lot of the information that or those lessons that were learned during COVID, a lot of us are forgetting, or, a lot of parts of humanity are forgetting what's important. And that's kind of distressing for some aspects of spiritual galactic communities. Like you guys, you went through this tremendous shift that has implications on where we're
bring
going.
Everybody together too,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why, we're seeing a lot of this crazy weather and climate change, all this destruction, because it's ultimately getting to that sense of community and kind of getting back out there, which even for myself, I've been getting that message from my guides very strongly. Like, it's okay. I'm more comfortable working from home and, not to say isolating myself, but being empathic. It's very overwhelming to be in large crowds or around a lot of people. But they keep giving me that little kick in the butt. Like, okay, it's time to take those steps to start getting out there and share this teaching with everybody and really help bring everybody together,
Yeah, there's also the part of one of the lessons we always kind of look down on technology, yet, we're all here right now. But they have acknowledged that there are, positive implications, this technology that we have in order to be having this conversation and everyone's here right now. That's kind of why it was introduced, or the inspiration came to pass, because it's an aspect of, we are all connected. We can, with COVID, even though we were apart, there are ways which through technology we could still connect. Versus 1700s, it was what's going on, oh my god, where's this coming from, we don't even know. So there is just remembering that we don't always have to go outside, we don't always have to physically be in a place. There is that energetic connection.
That either, not to forget that we still can go out and help other people and bring in that sense of community, but also embrace the advances of technology, where we can all be all around the world and come together right now,
Yeah, which is incredible. I mean, I think we forget that. Well, at least I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want to do some questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good for a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, Robert says the world is going so fast. It really is. It really is. Last year especially, I swear it was like, I felt like between the last two Christmases, like it was maybe a matter of 2-3 months. It's just like continuing to go forward so fast. A day, a month, a year. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's starting to slow a little bit now. Like, it doesn't seem like it's quite as fast, but it's still moving very fast.
Yeah, I just, time is speed. Well, I don't know. That's like a whole other conversation.
Right.
Time doesn't exist, but then it is speeding up. I don't know how that works. I don't think we're supposed to get it.
Well, maybe it goes with this shift, because if we think about it, time on the other side or in other dimensions, it's all kind of happening at the same time. But as we're kind of collectively raising our vibrations, maybe we are going into a faster timeline of past, present, and future, and then that's why it seems so overwhelming.
Yeah. That's interesting. Went this direction, and I put up this question from I keep hearing that timelines are merging. What exactly does this mean, and what does it mean for us? Is it taking the best out of all timelines and putting them together?
I don't know if it's necessarily taking the best of all timelines and putting them together. It doesn't feel like that, because, really all the hard things that we deal with is really how we kind of grow and evolve. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what you're picking up with that, in regards to maybe some things you've picked up in sessions.
I guess it's important to think about, and this is we call them timelines, but they're anything but lines. Is the first thing that always, I'm always pointed to point. Like it isn't a straight shot with when timelines are discussed. The timelines can be, it's been described to me to think of like all of our concepts of time and timelines to be the sphere. And not only are these, each decision, each choice we make, we go in different directions on not only the surface, but inside the sphere, but then the sphere has it's infinitely big, which kind of goes beyond our human understanding. And I've been told, there are some things we're not supposed to understand. So
right.
We don't have to get it all. The merging, I think, is more or less that choices we're moving in a direction where we are aware of kind of our universal connection and universal consciousness, and being aware of the directions that we need to go based on our raising and vibration frequency, being guided by love, being guided by compassion, being able to see things for what they are more so than we did in the past. And because of that, there are less timelines, because we're not there's no good or bad choices, but we're being more cohesive in the directions that we want to go. So I think that in a sense, it could be saying, because we are being cohesive and we are moving for the betterment and evolution, even though a lot in the world right now doesn't seem to reflect that. We are moving with our best interests, I guess would be. I don't know if that really answers the question.
Right.
There's just less timelines because I think that we are listening more to our intuitions and following those more so than logic and reason. And often when we need to listen to our intuitions more, and by listening to intuitions, that is also kind of listening to the universal consciousness, universal mind, whatever you want to call it, in terms of where we know we need or feel we should go.
It makes sense. But I think I agree with you. It's a very kind of complicated
thing.
And like I was saying before, kind of like past, present, future, all kind of happening at once right now too.
Yeah, and I don't want to say been put in my place, but when I initially first started, I really wanted to understand everything, but there's just some things they say, it's okay. You're not equipped to understand this, or there's other times when they're trying to describe something and we don't even have, because with these sessions, it's all coming through a client. And they rely upon the vocabulary of that client to be able to express what's coming through. So even if the client is well-versed in everything and has a really great vocabulary, there's still certain aspects or certain concepts or things that we don't have language for, so they really can't communicate it. Which they get frustrated sometimes because it's like, there's no word for this, so we can't really talk about it. So
I hope that somewhat answers your question, Naja.
Yeah. I mean, there's less timelines. We're going in a good direction. I think that's the best way to put it. Jason, have you received any information about different source entities like Guy Stephen Mueller's information?
This is all you, because I don't know anything about that.
This kind of relates to, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I would highly recommend reading his books. They're just mind-blowing, but they are kind of like advanced, next level material. There are different universes. I'll kind of put it like that. The seraphim actually have to do with it too, but there are different universes that we are somewhat aware of, but are not. But they do have different, I don't want to say laws, but I'll just move into her question.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten some information that does kind of confirm that. That the best way to put it is, I did have a client who he was a multi-dimensional, or I guess multi-universal. I don't even know what. Yeah, being
Mm-hmm.
that he had another higher self in another universe, and there was confusion over the direction and guidance he was getting because he was responding to some things from his other higher self in another universe. So it was an interesting session. If I hadn't read his book, I would have been totally lost. But it did, in fact, kind of confirm that there's a set number of other universes. It's based on like 12 by 12, 144, and knew that. So good question. We'll have to talk about that another.
Yeah.
When we meet Kim. Okay, so this is more of a reading one. Hi guys, would love to know any messages meant for me now.
I'll just say GVN wings. I was picking up something specific with you of being very expressive, or being able to understand color language or frequencies. Because you're kind of coming down here as the sacred Earth Mother, helping with uplifting the vibrations. I do feel like for you, though, there's maybe been a bit of a sadness or a loss that you've been kind of going through. To me, it almost feels like maybe a bit of soul searching or feeling a bit stuck. But I ultimately get the message card. So there's positive news kind of coming in, insight coming in for you. And I think whatever this loss is, it's that learning experience for you to be that mentor or guide for the world. But it's all about kind of you're going to get through whatever the sadness is that you've been experiencing. And also just opening up to the colors and beautiful frequencies of light. What are you picking up, Jason?
So I got the first one is the Skyfather card, Trust in the Unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So this can have a couple different meanings. One is that, well, it often acknowledges that you have a very strong father or paternal energy as a guide around you. So someone who's passed, that's one interpretation. Two, it's also embracing your strength. We talk a lot about the divine feminine, but there is the divine masculine, and it's not the toxic masculine.
Mm-hmm.
It is, the strength and the, being active versus passive. So kind of taking action in your own life, and harnessing that energy, and knowing that and recognizing that we all have both qualities within us, and that it's knowing that you are strong, and knowing that if you are going through things, it is making you stronger, but you have been through a lot. So it is kind of weathering the storm, which I think is having to do with the lightning. And also just kind of remembering, and with the eagle, the higher perspective, trying to step back and seeing, what am I learning from this? What can I take away from this as you move forward? And interestingly, I got this card. These are herbal cards. The teacher. So really acknowledging that you have more wisdom than you give yourself credit for, and it's the encouragement that you need to embrace that. And because there are people who can learn from you, and you do have a role to play in others' lives that can give them profound insight. And I feel like this might particularly be connected to kind of the struggles that you've experienced and turning that into a healing and growth through teaching. So I hope that resonates.
I love that. And that really resonates with what I was picking up too.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, interesting. Hold on. She just posted a comment. Says, "Thank you, Kevin. I'm I don't know what
I thought that's a sniffer.
Color consult for a paint company. Have been going through a lot of feelings and being guided in a new direction that hasn't yet presented." Oh, interesting. Interesting. Like I said, maybe it's even doing a bit of like healing work or tapping into, doing color readings or something like that. I don't know, but a very unique sense of color. And I think you can use that to kind of.
There's always the push to not forget that color is sound is color, and we're all that combined in one. So
interesting. She said she's a designer and I'm learning Reiki. Interesting.
Oh, okay.
I get the most beautiful colors when I do the Reiki healings. So I do a bit of like color readings with it also. But oftentimes the Reiki guides and masters will send in colors to kind of, that's how it's channeling the Reiki energy for whatever kind of healing or vibration that the client needs. So interesting. Maybe using that love of colors or that eye for colors into your Reiki. I love that. Very cool.
All right. V. Perez. Hello, Kevin and Jason. Anything for my son, Joaquin? He was doing well in his film and video work for years as a freelancer in New York. Now he can't find work and has a family and mortgage.
Yeah, it's a bit tough in the film industry right now. And all of that, especially with some of the AI stuff coming in. But I do feel like there's going to be a good way to kind of complement the AI with actual human beings doing the work too. It feels like it's kind of like a sticky period right now. But I almost feel like Jason or Joaquin is things are going to start picking up. It feels like it's maybe another opportunity coming in the summer is what I'm intuiting. Like something really exciting coming in. I'm sorry it's not a little bit sooner, but it feels like things start to shift in the summer of this year. I'll throw a couple cards on it. Oh, awesome. Yeah, your son's got great cards, V. Prez. It's coming through as a Knight of Wands, which is that fiery, passionate knight, very charismatic. It's often a card of heading slightly in a different direction, but he's got the Magician here, so he's that manifesting master, and he's got all of the tools at his disposal to create the reality that he wants. And his last card out is the Sun card. So there's success, happiness, all good stuff. So it's a bit of shifting a little bit, I'm afraid, but he's going to be just fine. He's going to get through this hard time.
And just as a general message, there are a lot of people that are kind of in this situation just in terms of professional career wise. And Spirit is continually saying this is not a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. And it's just because we are moving into a direction where things that we will be doing will be completely different. And some of it we don't have a conception of yet. And I know that's really super vague, but they essentially, and this actually came up in the card I drew, Babansana, which is all about trust. So just trusting that there is a plan in place and knowing that things actually, it's a blessing in disguise. It's part of the process right now. So I mean, the overall feeling is he will be finding something. It may not necessarily be what he expects, and this is the case for a lot of people as things kind of unfold more and more in the coming months. And it will be like a light bulb will go off. Like a switch will go on and be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or oh, this is my calling, or oh my God, I never thought about it, but this is perfectly what I want. So just trusting that that's in place and that's coming. It's just a matter of being patient and recognizing that things will come to fruition. And the other card that I got, First Light, it's the beginning of a new cycle. So just knowing that this is, again, part of the process, it is part of the plan, and it's just, this is giving him time to kind of actually build up the momentum for what he'll be doing.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's just trusting that the universe has a plan. Sometimes we need a bit of a shakeup or a shift. And just part of that learning experience is keeping the faith even in hard times, because he is that manifesting master. He's the magician there. So, you manifest the reality that you sit in and that you want to create. So just letting go and surrendering the fear, and it's hard, surrendering, just not resisting the change, trusting that it's all happening for a reason is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I heard, I can't remember how it was put, and this was in the session. It's just that our concept of surrender is that we're opening ourselves up to be attacked, we're opening ourselves up to be hurt, which kind of, based on human experience, is, it's hard not to equate surrendering with some type of damage. Surrendering in the spiritual sense just means being open, opening your heart, being open to receive. So if you use that language with him, just, it's not you're giving up, it's actually you're open to receive what's coming. Or, sometimes we're so caught up in, I need this to be a certain way, that we're cutting off all the other opportunities that are actually the ones that are supposed to be coming.
Right. Even opportunities that you can't imagine,
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel like some good news coming in, and things kind of shifting for him. It feels more like summer of this year.
Yeah, definitely with the blessings card, it was the spring, summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for the question.
I probably have time for one more. I know that we didn't get too many questions today.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed even just our conversations that we had.
I mean, it's all stuff we need to, all of us need to know. So.
Yeah.
All right. So Rose, I am light working, waiting to retire, but I keep having to save people. Right now, it's my sister with dementia. When will I get that life back? I can never say no. First thing I'll say.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
The first thing I'll say is this is generally from spirit. When we are caregivers, or for example, children with parents, and you're an adult child and somehow involved with parents, moving close to parents, that means that there is some unfinished business at play. So that might be something to keep in mind when you are closely working with a family member or someone. So just thinking about things that that are left unsaid or left undone. So I just kind of felt that, but do the reading.
Yeah. And I agree with that so much, Jason. I'll also say, just kind of tapping in. I know it's so hard. Most of us are very empathic, very giving, overly giving sometimes. Sometimes we have to make sure that we make ourselves the priority, because if we're not taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're the priority, we don't have the energy to give back to other people. So just, even though it's difficult having to be there and be that support system for your sister and helping to take care of her, don't forget your needs, Rose. Make sure that your needs are met first. And I know a lot of us struggle with that because we feel selfish, or we feel like we can give so much more, but just making sure that you're taking that time, finding that right balance of making sure that your needs are met. It's so important. And if those aren't respected, we have to put those boundaries up too. It's something that I've had to learn doing this work too.
Yeah.
I get so many people that need like readings and need them like tomorrow, and I'm like, I just can't, and I wish I could read everybody, in one day, but I just need to make sure that I don't overdo it, that I'm taking care of myself, making sure that my needs are met, because if not, I'm going to be burnt out and no good to anybody else. So it's something that I think a lot of us are learning right now.
Yeah, I'll kind of add on to that in terms of, recognizing that you are a light worker. It's common for us to, from the spirit side, when we're coming in to help with the earth or help with humanity or help with healing and all that, we are overachievers on the spirit side, and we get here and we still kind of hold that in terms of, if you are a healer or you do this type of work, it's easy to lose yourself in it because you want to save the world. But it's also being humble in that we are limited in our human bodies. We
and
can't
honoring your own energy, honoring your own energy.
So I don't think it's a question of when will you get your life back. It's possible to have both. It's not either or. It's just finding that balance. And it's okay to say no sometimes. I have trouble saying no. But it's really about your own health, your own welfare, your own state of being. And also you have stuff to do. Which sounds kind of heartless, but there are times where we have to recognize we can't live other people's lives. We have to live our own and what we set out to do. And if we don't live our own life, we're really, I haven't heard anyone say they want to come back and do this again. So that might be something. That's a motivating factor. If you don't do what you set out to do, you'll be back again and it'll be a lot harder. That's what I've been told several times.
You don't see it from that perspective on the other side. Although I've been one to say, geez, I've had my fair share of challenges in this life. I'm not coming back for a long time. But really, when we get to the other side, we just want to experience everything. And we really want to evolve and grow. And going through those hard times are the ones that really help us spiritually to grow and ascend. So sometimes a lot of us light workers pick very difficult lives, very challenging lives, because we feel like, I can learn all these lessons in one life, and then we become a bit overwhelmed with everything, right?
Yeah, it happened. The spirit teams, before we get here, the spirit team that agrees to work with us, or the spirit guide, and you might want to rethink this before you get down there, because this is going to be a mess. And we're like, oh no, this will be no problem. And then we get here and it's like, oh my God. And these are often the people who are like, there's no way I could have chosen this because I wouldn't do something like this. But it's like, from the spirit side, it's all a piece of cake. Here, not so much. So,
So Rose, I'm just feeling the message to make sure that you're going to that heart space and asking for your needs to be met. The sacred heart. So what brings you love? What ignites that? What ignites that fire in the belly? What is your heart telling you to do? And respecting and honoring it. I do feel like there's a bit of saying winter's end, so it's a time of rebirth, regeneration, but also a good outcome coming in. I do feel like even though it's a bit hard, ultimately right now you have the Moonlight Goddess, which is a card of reflecting and healing for maybe any repressed emotions. But I do get like there's some good news coming in and new opportunities coming in as well for you. So just keep the faith, my friend. I know it's difficult, but just make sure that you're respecting and honoring your own energy, and making sure that you're finding that right balance. It's so important.
I guess, their Kashik Stargate card, not being aligned with your purpose, crossroads, no wrong path. It ultimately, we have a choice, and there's no wrong choice or right choice. And I know it's difficult, especially with a loved one who's dealing with dementia, for example. I know from my work and my experience, dementia sometimes has to do with a spirit is choosing to stay on the earth plane because there's someone here that isn't ready to allow that transition to happen. I'm not stating this is particularly the case of your sister, but that might be something to be aware of in terms of is there something that's holding your sister's spirit here? Again, that's just a question to think about. It's not. I don't feel that that's necessarily the case with yours, but setting boundaries is important. So there's no right and wrong. Every choice is a learning experience. So,
have you ever had, Jason, during a reading, and I know it's a little bit off topic, but I've had actually, and I'm not the strongest medium, I'll be very honest and say that, but I've actually had people that were physically here that had dementia that I was actually able to communicate with on the other side. It's like they're already somewhat partially, mentally, they're already on the other side.
That's
when they're very advanced with it.
Characters, it's basically, I mean, when we're a baby, infants, it's been told to me that's why they sleep so much, because they're still traveling back and forth between the spirit world and the earth plane. And dementia kind of reflects that too. It's where you're traveling back and forth, so you're not always there. But there's always this reassurance that the spirit, even if it isn't present in the physical body, is still around you, and to communicate with that person, for example, even though it may not be a physical, it's important to speak with that person as though that they are there, and 100%, because that information, that work, and that communication, that line of communication is still there. So that's interesting. I've had it in QHHT sessions, but I haven't had that experience firsthand with.
I've had it happen a couple times.
That's interesting.
But it's very interesting.
Huh. Wow.
Do you want to throw a card for the collective group? Just any messages or anything that we need to close out? Just because I know quite a few people sent questions. We didn't get to everybody, but like I said, I think the conversations were a lot of fun and very interesting for what's going on. I threw a postcard, and our message is that you're not alone. And the message is, dear you, it might be hard to believe you'll ever get to where you want to go, feel the way you want to feel, and find peace and security, but you can. There's a lot to celebrate in this life, but first you need to let go of this attachment to achieving certain results. It is easy to get caught up in the endless loop of wanting this or that so you can feel safe. The only way out of this is to surrender the attachment. Empty yourself so you can be filled with something new. The compulsion will be lifted and peace will come. Trust that something better waits. This reminded me of the other reading that we just did. Trust that something better waits, that something new will open up and you will see new opportunities for fulfillment. The truth is, whenever you get into the loop, what you really are looking for is spirit. That connection is where you want the power, the peace, and the purpose. Everything else follows after that. Give yourself a hug. We got you. Loving you so, so much. What a beautiful message, especially I think since there's so much turmoil and kind of chaos going on. Just focusing on those things that uplift us, the things that bring us joy, that laughter, and sitting in that space, creating that reality.
So this is another herbal card, St. John's wort. So happiness, it's also about radiance and also resilience. So it's important, and I think that, again, this is kind of going with what we were talking about. Not letting yourself. We can't save the world, even though we want to, and we do have something to do. But it's also, expressing our light, expressing that we are radiant light beings, not forgetting that. And then the down. It's kind of like a two pathway. They don't want us to disconnect and to try to, completely disconnect from the human experience, because that's why we're here. It's just maintaining that balance between the joy and the radiance, and not putting all of our energy into the chaos that's going around around the world. We have to save some of that for ourselves too.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance.
Right.
Oh, very cool. Well, this was a lot of fun, Jason.
Yeah.
I know you invited me on your channel. I'm streaming it on mine, but we'll definitely have to do this again soon.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it was. I had a good time and great, informative information.
Good discussions.
Yeah.
It's good to kind of do something a little bit different, I would say. Not to say that I really enjoy doing the politics and helping everybody through these trying times, helping everybody stay sane and grounded. But it's fun to shake it up and do something a little bit different too.
Yeah, kind of working on more.
From a little bit of a higher perspective, right?
Not feeling as depressed.
Right. Well, we'll do this again soon, and thank you again, Jason. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for all who are here. If we didn't get to your questions, please come back again. I know Kevin does a lot of the shows. I'm planning on doing more. I've been kind of hiding in the background a bit, but definitely want to do more. And
sometimes we need to take our own space, and we have other projects that we need to focus on too. So just making sure. But I know a lot of political questions came in tonight. I will be on Mel Doer's channel tomorrow night, so please come by, and I'm sure we have a lot to talk about. So we'll talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a good night, and thank you again, Kevin. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. Sending you a lot of love and blessings.